Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by AIA referee Scott Hanson, who will discuss some of the misconceptions surrounding the profession. We'll then head back to the pool and revisit our interview with Northern Arizona swimmer and former Mingus Union Marauder Emma Warner. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Northern Arizona Wrangler Skylar Clinton, who will discuss his return to Prescott to play for his hometown team. All of that and a whole lot more coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports. I'm joined now by Northern Arizona Wrangler wide receiver Skylar Clinton. Skylar, welcome onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Northern Arizona Wranglers, they are the newest arena football team, or I should say the indoor football league team here in Prescott Valley, in Yavapai County. And Skylar is a part of that team, obviously. But Skylar is not new to the Prescott area. He played high school football at Bradshaw Mountain and Prescott High School. At Prescott, more specifically, you rushed for over 1,400 yards, 21 touchdowns on 188 carries as a senior. What a huge senior year for you in your final year over at Prescott High School. Also, played a little quarterback too, 4 touchdowns and 206 yards on 16 attempts. All Division III honorable mention and first team All Division III Section 4. Accomplished a lot at both of those schools. Do you have a favorite memory of playing at Bradshaw or Prescott, or both?
Both of them, it had a lot to do with the fans, the environment, the community, just being able to be a part of both of those. They were, fun games. Friday nights was one of the best things to look forward to as a player, playing quarterback and running back at Prescott as well. Being able to be a part of this community and kind of show and prove what, I'm about, those were kind of my memories and my thoughts throughout high school. There was a few games against Flagstaff High School that my senior year that I look back on when I, scored 5 touchdowns in a game. And it was, those things, just are unbeatable.
Skylar, you playing at Prescott High School. We all know Bill Shepherd Field got a big kind of a renovation after you graduated. So I do kind of want to ask, as somebody who did play on the old field, I only have ever heard of rumors of stories of that old field, how it had a big hill in the middle. Can you talk a little bit about those field conditions and maybe how difficult, but also how fun it was to play there?
Yeah, it was always, muddy. We always, had a good time playing out there. If it was dry, it was kind of lucky, but with the hill and the mound, I was able to get going when I was running the ball because I was running like downhill basically. So it was fun. It was, out like backyard football, always muddy and, just had that grit to it that, most teams would like to have.
Yeah. And of course, now if you go to Bill Shepherd Field, it's this beautiful artificial turf field with, I think the field is blue, if I remember correctly. It's absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, I've only ever heard about the old Prescott field, but I know Skylar, we're getting another opportunity to maybe play at Prescott High School if that ever were to happen. Would love to play in that new field, but you get to play in the beautiful Finlay Toyota Center with the Northern Arizona Wranglers. You were also the first Prescott Badger to receive a FBS scholarship when you were a senior to the University of Wyoming. Now, the interesting thing with that is you went in as a defensive end, mostly playing offense at Bradshaw. And obviously we mentioned Prescott. You did transition to the defensive side when you went to Prescott High School. So how was that transition for you? And how great does it feel to be one of the first, and I don't think only, but one of the first to receive a major scholarship to a D1 university?
Yeah, it was something that I strived for every day. It was something that I looked forward to and kind of, got me through, all the ups and downs that I had in high school, was just kind of staying dedicated to myself. First and foremost, knowing what I can do and what I was capable of doing. Because there was, quite a bit of negativity around both places. And, just for myself to be able to believe in myself was kind of one of the, best things that, happened to me. Yeah, I was the first one to receive an FBS offer. And, that was nothing short of difficult for me. I had to, sit there, and I was, sending out emails day in, day out, going to camps down in Phoenix and Vegas and California, and getting on an All-American team my senior year, the Blue-Gray All-American Bowl, and just basically reaching out and making contacts because, not too many recruits kind of, to big D1 schools would come up into this area. And it was something that was very difficult for me, and, was able to kind of get the ball rolling on that late my senior year. And, things worked out how they worked out for me. And, I'm super thankful for that.
You talk about some of those difficulties. We've kind of talked about it a few times on the show here and there, just sort of, the difference in recruiting and the area of Northern Arizona, how it has so many great athletes, but a lot of people, like you just said, sometimes recruiters can't make it up here. They can't watch game film, or aren't looking up in this area. So I do want to ask, for any kids who are in high school right now, getting ready to go into their junior year or go into their senior year, and they want to keep playing football, but they're just kind of stuck and wondering what should I do to get people involved and get people to know who I am. I mean, what advice would you have? I know you talked about shooting out emails. What else do you have for those kids who might be in that same situation?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is to, make sure you keep all your contacts that you have, or, coaches down in the valley, like high school coaches. Make sure you just keep in touch with everybody. You never know who can help you out or put in a good word for you, and things like that, and first and foremost, just believe in yourself and believe that you can do it.
Now, as we mentioned, Skylar, and again, we were speaking with Northern Arizona Wrangler, Skylar Clinton. He is a former Bradshaw Mountain Bear and Prescott High School Badger. He is playing for the Arizona Wranglers, an indoor arena football team here in Prescott Valley. But Skylar, transitioning from high school to college, obviously not a ton of experience on the defensive side. How was that transition for you from high school football to the college level? And did you have your quote unquote welcome to the league moment?
Yes, I did. I had plenty of those. And, I learned that when I was at Wyoming very quickly. I had surgery when I was at Wyoming on my labrum, and I got that repaired up there. And it was kind of one thing where, we were in practice and I was playing defense, and my shoulder got dislocated about 3 times in practice, and realized that in order to be on top and, play at that level, you have to be healthy. Because at Prescott, I was able to play through some of the injuries that I had. And when you get to that level, you got to kind of just be on top of your mental health as well as your physical health.
Very much so. I mean, injuries are oh man, they really only go one way. Either you recover fine and you're good, or you recover poorly and you come back and it's a tough road. But after Wyoming, Skylar played for the University of Albany in New York, then Mesa Community College in Mesa, Arizona, obviously the University of Alabama at Birmingham, before finishing up here in Northern Arizona with the Northern Arizona University. Did you always have a plan to come back to Northern Arizona? Was it just the way the dice fell, or what happened?
Yeah. So, when I left Wyoming and I went up to Albany, and I was playing more of a outside linebacker position to kind of help my skill set and believe what I can do. That's why, I left Wyoming and went up there and, trying to better myself in positions that I feel would be better, quickly to realize that my heart was kind of on the offensive side of the ball. And I went to, then that's when I had to reopen my recruiting process and go through the junior college path, which, for myself is, was one of the best opportunities I could have done. Wish that, I would have known about junior colleges coming out of high school and how, things are there, because, it's kind of not what I thought it was. Going to a junior college, like the talent there was phenomenal, and, got good experience, and as well as kind of open up to me getting a whole bunch of offers. And that's kind of something that I would tell people up here, is to not put away these junior college programs, because those are the programs that really help you. And I didn't really have, a set option to come back here and play. I then from Mesa went to UAB and, was able to help them win a couple bowl games and a couple championship games in Conference USA. And, from there, 3 years later, I felt that it was best for me to, come back home, and I wanted to be close to family. My parents were able to make a couple games a year, maybe. And, I kind of wanted them to watch me play. And, that didn't really work out because it was during COVID and we didn't allow fans. And there was a few games they were able to come to at Southern Utah and things like that. So that was kind of my plan there. When I went back to Mesa, I decided to go back to offense and start playing tight end. And that's where I was when I was at UAB and NAU. And, I just had a phenomenal experience at both of those places, and, couldn't be more thankful for that.
You make a great point. And again, we were speaking with Northern Arizona Wrangler Skylar Clinton. You talked about the community college route. I myself did the same thing. Didn't know what I wanted to do out of high school. Went to the community college route. I know you had a couple stops before then, but I think you're right. I think community colleges are maybe have this weird stigma around them that they're really only for people who want to continue their education or go back. It's really, it really honestly is not an option that people kind of look to first before when considering colleges. And of course, here in Northern Arizona, we've got Coconino Community College, Yavapai College up here. I think there's a couple others, and then obviously down in the Phoenix area, there are a bunch. So I agree. Potentially, if you are somebody who is not who's not getting scholarship offers, do not be afraid to look at the community college route. Skylar just said it. It is a great way to get your foot in the door, to kind of figure out what you want to do, and just get a direction for your career and what you want to accomplish, whether it's with sports or without. But Skylar is currently playing for the Arizona Wranglers. How did you hear about the opportunity with this team?
Yeah, so there was a few coaches that on the team now, I was kind of wrapping up at NAU and getting things finished up there for my senior year, and was going to, start exploring all my options in terms of keep playing football or, starting a career and things like that. And, some of the coaches, Coach David Moran, who coached with the Bears, I've known him for a long time, and his father coached my dad in high school. And so, he kind of reached out to me and kind of was like, hey, I have this opportunity for you. And I came up here, and, about a week before the season started, and came into the scrimmage and things like that, and did some very good things here. And, it was just a good opportunity for me to keep playing football.
You talked a little bit about when you went back to NAU and got to be around family, got to be a lot closer to family. I mean, now you're literally back in your hometown. Do you feel a lot more comfortable being with the Wranglers and just being in an environment that you're familiar with so that you can continue to build your career?
Yeah, it's something that I have a ton of support behind between my family and friends and things like that. And, it makes me feel comfortable and feel like I'm in a good position to, be able to do things here and get things done in order to, move on to the next level or, keep progressing in my professional career in football.
again, for those who are unfamiliar with the IFL, which is the Indoor Football League, it used to be the Arena Football League, but they changed it. Skylar, you can kind of break down maybe a couple of the other more specific differences, but there aren't a ton of differences, or maybe there are more than I'm thinking of. I know the field size is smaller. The field goals are positioned in a different way. I know there are some differences, but can you kind of talk to us about some of the more key differences between Indoor Football League and what we usually see on Friday nights or on Saturdays at the NCAA level, or even Sundays for the pros?
Yeah. So in terms of playing, the space is very confined, like you talked about. As a player, being able to run routes is a lot different. There's not as much space to make somebody miss, and there's the space aspect is one of the biggest things. Transitioning as being a receiver, being able to run routes, the balls are coming a little bit quicker, and on top of that, you're playing against professional athletes that are in a confined space, and there's just a lot of explosion, a lot of collision. And then on top of that, there's the wall that you have to watch out for, which completely changes the game. And that was the biggest thing for me, was having a wall there instead of an out of bounds. And that was big. So
have you taken any spills over the wall just yet? I know that's kind of one of the big things about arena football, is the hits over the wall.
Yeah. So in the scrimmage, I did one time. It wasn't, anything like insane, but it was a little bit. But I have been rehabbing an injury and had to sit out the last couple games. And, this will actually be my first game this week back. And I'm looking able to get into that.
With Skylar, I got one last question for you. You're playing under Coach Dominic Bramonti. How has it been playing under him?
He's a very inspirational guy. He, at first, when I was kind of on the borderline of being here, he kind of said a lot of stuff to, hit home, and kind of inspired me to be able to do this. And he was, the biggest thing about him is, he will get you going. He's a very inspirational guy.
The Wranglers have a game coming up this Saturday, and you can check that out at the Finlay Toyota Center. You can potentially watch Skylar out on the field. But Skylar, I hope your recovery goes well. Hopefully you get back on the field real soon, man. I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about playing for the Wranglers and your time at Bradshaw and Prescott. I know we're all happy to have you back here at Prescott playing for the Wranglers, and hopefully a IFL championship will come soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by AIA official Scott Hanson. Stay with us on Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench. I'm Philip Catafamo, and I'm joined by a familiar face to the show. He is back. He is talking this time about being an AIA referee. It is Scott Hanson. Scott, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you. Great to be off the bench, back on the bench.
Well, we're happy to have you on the bench here, Scott. We talked to Scott in January, actually. In the beginning of the year, he was our New Year's episode, and we talked about the books that, for those of you who are watching on Verde Valley TV, you can see behind him. He has two posters, or I should say a Zoom filter, that has his two books that he has written, What's Your Number and Who is Jim? We talked about those in our previous interview, so if you do want to go check that out, go back to Verde Valley TV, his YouTube channel, and go check that out. January 1st was that episode. But we were talking about Scott's long career long career as an AIA official. He is still an official in the AIA. Scott started as a freshman at NAU, just basically looking for some spending money while he was attending school. But Scott, what has kept you in this particular profession for so long? I know it's not your job. This is something you do on the side, but what has kept you continuing to be a referee even after college?
Well, first of all, I call it an avocation versus a profession. Because at the high school level, which is where I am, it's really more of a hobby or an avocation than a profession. Certainly we get paid for the games, but certainly we don't do it for the money. I think what's kept me involved is my passion for the two sports that I officiate, and those are football and baseball. And I think being able to be a part of the game and being able to give something back to the game, to me, is real important. And I've always loved both of those sports so much. And to the point where baseball, not only do I continue to umpire, I still play in a men's baseball league. So it's old man baseball and it's really bad baseball, but it is baseball. So I think really that's what it is. It's passion for the sports and the ability to be a part of it. And we often joke, I often joke with the kids sometimes, that, hey, without the refs or without the umpires, it's just a scrimmage.
Yeah. It's no different than picking up a basketball and going down to the park and shooting hoops and calling your own fouls. You're right. Without referees, as we all know, they're a very integral part of sports, a sometimes unappreciated aspect, or underappreciated aspect of sports. But Scott, like I mentioned, you've been refereeing for a long time here. You've seen a lot, mainly refereeing football and baseball. But what adjustments have you made throughout the years? How have you adjusted and grown as an umpire since you started to where you're at now?
Well, I think a lot of it just has to do with my tenure in the game. When I first started officiating, I really wasn't very good because I was brand new at it. And I had a much harder time diffusing difficult situations because I just didn't have that life experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't been down that road before. And as I've grown as an official and as a person and all of that, I've become much better at handling players and coaches and parents and fans that I didn't have that expertise, or I didn't have that background earlier on in my career. And I'm a better official now, so I don't have as many issues. And I think that's really the adjustments that I've made. And I don't know if I've made them, or it's sort of been my own growth as both an individual and as a sports official.
That's really interesting too, because I myself probably would fall into the same issue of being somebody who's young and an authoritative figure. It's kind of tough to make some of those judgment calls with people who are older than you, especially a lot of coaches are older than me. And I know I'd have a hard time early on if I was to become a referee with that same issue that you struggled with, which was just utilizing your voice and being, hey, I'm the official here. I'm the referee. It's my way or the highway, and we're going from there. But, Scott, what are some things that you see young referees, some mistakes that they make whenever they step into the game? Like you mentioned, you mentioned some of your struggles that you had, but what have you seen that other referees do that's really bad when they first start out?
Well, I think I wouldn't say that it's bad. And again, it goes back to the whole newness of it. One is confidence. Mm-hmm. You have to have the confidence that you are in position, the rules, and you are going to give it 100%. And I really do believe that is the mindset that officials have. It doesn't always look that way when you're watching a game. If your favorite team, a call doesn't go your way, whatever might happen. But it's not because a conscious decision was made on that part. So I just think that confidence is really the number one thing. And it's amazing how much hustle can take care of a lot of issues as well. If a baseball umpire is hustling on the field, or a football official is hustling on the field, that takes away a lot of the issues. I for years have used this conversation with coaches. If they would come out on a baseball field and say, Scott, what'd you see? Yeah. And I will start off with saying, well, coach, I hustled. I got a really good look at it. I got the best look I could. I had to make a split decision. I thought he was safe, or I thought he was out, or whatever. And I think also maintaining a calmness about you is also an attribute that I think goes a long way. And again, I don't think any new officials have that coming in, because it is so new. It's funny, when we do our scrimmages at the beginning of the football season, and we'll have 10 or 15 officials out there working one scrimmage. We rotate new guys in and we teach them and all of that.
Right.
And one of the things that we tell the new officials all the time is stand back and don't get hurt. And the reason we say that is because if you've never officiated before, the game, even at the freshman level or junior high level, it's so fast that you don't anticipate how fast it's going to be until you're out there on the field. And as you grow as an official, you learn that, at the freshman level, it's one speed, and at the varsity level, it's another speed. Mm-hmm. And it even varies from the size of the schools. You go to a Mingus High School football game, the speed there is different than if you're at Hamilton in Chandler, just because of the athletes, bigger, faster, stronger. And that's not to say that there aren't great athletes at those schools and some of the others. It's just, those programs do play at a different speed. So I think those are a couple of other things that kind of come to mind when you talk about, as an official, things you kind of need to process.
It's interesting. You talk about just sort of the different speeds when transitioning to a freshman game to a varsity game, or even like you just mentioned, a 4A game to a 6A game, just being completely different in terms of the level of talent that's out on the field. But I mean, how do you approach that, Scott? I just kind of more specifically, are you, really being on top of your crew and going, hey, we're at Hamilton High School. This is a big game. We need to be on the top of our game here. Not to say that you don't, take every game seriously, but is there a difference in that approach when you do go from JV to varsity or 4A to 6A?
Right. That's a great observation. And there is a different approach. At the freshman and JV levels here in Arizona, the AIA schedules 4 officials for those games.
Okay.
And typically we'll have 2 veteran officials working with 2 newer officials for freshman JV games. And just like the JV football program at any individual school, that's training for those kids to become varsity football players. We use those freshman and JV games to give our newer officials game experience to hopefully help them grow so that they become better and are able to handle a varsity football game down the road.
Right.
When our crew, and then for Friday night games, for the most part, I have the same crew every Friday night. So it's myself and 4 other guys, 5 of us on a crew. And for some games this last season and hopefully moving into the future, we'll have 7-man crews for games, which really allows for better adherence to the rules by the kids, because we don't have as many things each guy has to pay attention to. When we get our varsity football schedule that's assigned by the AIA, my crew in particular, we have the confidence knowing that they wouldn't have assigned us that game if they didn't think we could handle it. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes, but we spend an awful lot of time getting ready for every individual game. We watch game film from the previous week. I go through it and kind of do, it's like we're like coaches for the kids. I get certain plays and I send it to my crew. We watch the plays over again. Hey, you had a holding call on this play Friday night. Great call. Look, you can see him grabbing, you can see him twisting, you can see that. Or, hey, we had a pass interference call on this, and I'm watching it in slow motion again. Do you guys really think that was pass interference? So we go back and we critique it on a weekly basis, and we talk quite a bit. We talk during the week pretty regularly, and then again on a Wednesday we'll do a freshman game, a Thursday a JV game, Friday a varsity game, and then many of our guys will do Pop Warner games on Saturday. So there's an awful lot of chance to get those game time reps in an effort to improve. You come across, it's interesting. Sometimes the bigger, higher level games are easier to do.
Okay.
Coaching's better, players are better, all of that kind of stuff versus, a freshman game where the kids are brand new to the game, the coaches are new to the game, they're all still learning, the officials are still learning, and weird things happen, things that you may never see again in 30 years, but they'll happen at that freshman game that you were doing in your 3rd game ever, things like that. So that's sort of the approach. And even before the season starts, I just got some information from the AIA. They sent it out. We'll start our meetings in the middle of the summer. And those are review meetings. We talk about mechanics, where you're supposed to be on certain plays, what you're looking for, that type of thing, but also the rules. We redo our own mental headset, if you will, on the rule book every year. We take a test every year. And Then we'll do one, two, some officials will do even more than that, scrimmages, where we donate our time to go out to the scrimmages where we can teach and train and kind of knock the rust off,
right,
and get ready for the season. Even during the summer, we have many officials that will work in the passing leagues and do things like that, where they can kind of start getting ramped up for that season when it rolls around here in the fall or late summer, depending on whenever those games are scheduled.
You know, it's interesting you talk about going back and watching calls and stuff. And I want to dive into a little bit more of the misconceptions that people have about referees, because my profession falls into that same category, which is a lot of people have this idea that broadcasters just kind of show up to the game and we do the game and then we leave. There is so much preparation that goes into every Friday night broadcast at Mingus Union High School, or every Tuesday baseball game at Chase Field, or even whatever, a softball game in an independent league, whatever it is. There's so much preparation that goes into that. We also watch tape back. We also go, okay, that call wasn't great, but maybe next time I can add a little bit more energy, or even like in your instance where it's, hey, that was a great holding call, but you missed this pass interference call down the line a little bit. And like you said, the differences between the talent levels and stuff like that. So there is a lot of parallels between our profession. But what about misconceptions, Scott? There's so many, people always want to blame the referees for a bad call or a home run or something like that. And it's so easy for us sitting in the stands to go, hey, you missed that strike, or hey, you missed that double dribble. When we're watching the player with the ball, or we're watching that actual player, we have a better angle when it comes to a close play at home or a touchdown or even a couple inches for a first down, whatever it may be. But what are some of those other misconceptions that people have about the profession, or I should say the job of a referee?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and you're right on with all of that. And I remember when I was in broadcasting doing what you're doing, I'd get the phone call after the sportscast or after the game or whatever it was. Hey, your tie is wacky, or your hair's not right, or whatever. So I think we're kind of used to, getting that feedback. I think a great example of what you're talking about might be in football, where the rule book tells us what holding is. Right. But there's really a philosophy of what holding is. The rule book says one thing, but if a player is holding another player 30 yards away from the ball, we're probably not calling that holding penalty because it's irrelevant to what's going on. It's not at the point of attack. It's not. Now, I'm not to say that it's not holding, but the philosophy is that if it's not going to impact the play, it probably shouldn't be called unless it's really egregious. Right. And holding is just one example of that. When I use the term the philosophy of a penalty, roughing the passer is another one. My job as the referee wearing the white hat in a football game is to protect that quarterback. And we use an awful lot of preventive officiating to try to ensure that. When the pass is thrown, I am telling those oncoming rushers, the ball's away, the ball's away. So they not only is it their responsibility to see that the ball's away, but then they hear that from me. And it makes it a lot easier than if they do rough the passer, I can confidently throw the flag and say, not only is your responsibility to see that, but I also told you that. Right. So things like that, preventive officiating goes a long way. And those are things that, unless you're on the field, you might not know or hear. Right. Especially on a Friday night. On a Friday night, of course, you've got the rosters are so much bigger. The coaching staffs are so much bigger. There's a buzz in the crowd from people just talking in the stands. You might have one or two bands that are playing throughout the game. So the fans may not hear what's going on the field, the talking amongst the officials, the communication that we have. We have headsets on Friday night, so the officials are talking a lot during a football game, reconfirming things, discussing, if a coach told us that, when number 80 comes into the game, we're going to run a double reverse pass. Well, if I see number 80 come into the game, I can get on my microphone and tell my crew number 80 just came in the game, so that my guys have an idea. Oh, here's that double reverse pass. Right. We at least have a little insight as to how we can position ourselves once the play begins to make sure that we aren't messing up on our end, blowing an inadvertent whistle because we thought that the ball was handed off, but it wasn't, or something along those lines. So there's things that people don't know or get to hear or see that we do an awful lot of. At the freshman and JV levels, when there are, a few parents in the stands and that's about it. Sometimes if you're paying attention, you can hear the officials talking to the other players, talking to the coaches, talking to the amongst themselves.
Right.
And it's always eye-opening, I think, or ear-opening when parents actually realize that and get an understanding of maybe these officials do know what they're doing, or at least their heart's in the right place. Again, I go back to it. We're not perfect. We're human. We are going to make mistakes, but not on purpose.
Yeah, and you kind of you talked about it, just some of the things that we don't see, the common people who are going to watch that game. And yeah, we did hear a lot of the referees, especially this past sports season, because nobody was really in the stands for most of it. And right. Myself as a broadcaster, I kind of had to temper my excitement a little bit, because when you're in an empty gym and you hear the broadcaster screaming about a layup, it echoes a little bit there, Scott. But again, we were speaking with AIA referee Scott Hanson. He has also written 2 books, What's Your Number and Who is Jim? You can email Scott directly to get a copy of those books. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But Scott, you talked about that, some of the things we don't usually see. Another thing that a lot of fans and myself are not a part of are rule changes. There are so many differences between the way the NFL officiates and the way the AIA trains their officials, whereas a lot of the rules are not transferable to the higher sports. So what could be considered, let's say, pass interference, or what could be considered a holding call in the NFL, because you watch the Cardinals do it every year, or, you watch the Cardinals do it against the Jets or whatever, that becomes an issue as well. So how do you kind of handle those miscommunications where somebody at home's going, that was a holding call, and you're like, technically it wasn't? Right.
Well, it's interesting. And I use this term a lot when I'm talking to, sometimes it's new coaches. I've been doing this for 33 years. So I have the experience level. I've been doing it longer than some of these newer coaches have been alive. Right. Or I hear parents screaming from the stands. A great example is a personal foul. In high school football, a personal foul is a 15-yard penalty or half the distance of the goal if it's within, the 30-yard line. In the NFL, a personal foul is an automatic first down. Mm-hmm. We don't have that in high school football for that particular penalty. Yeah. So when I hear a coach or a parent either screaming it or saying that, they kind of lose their credibility with me, because we're not in the NFL. This isn't Sunday. This is not a Sunday game. This is a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday game where we have different rules. Pass interference is another one. In the NFL, pass interference is spot of the foul. In high school football, it's 15 yards from the previous spot. Right. It doesn't matter if it was a long bomb and there was pass interference, you're only going to get 15 yards. Yeah. There are things like, if a pass isn't thrown beyond the line of scrimmage, there's no such thing as pass interference. It doesn't occur. You can have like a screen pass and have, a running back, or you're pulling guards or whatever, blocking downfield. And if the pass doesn't cross the line of scrimmage, that's completely legal. Interesting. You'll hear coaches or players, hey, he's blocking my guy.
Or the broadcaster saying it too.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the real breakthroughs over the last several years that we've seen in NFL broadcasts is that they now have retired officials they're not in the booth. They're sitting in LA or New York or wherever they are.
They're sending it to New York or whatever. Yes.
But they can come in and explain, look, this is the rule and this is why it was called. And that goes a long way, I think, in dispelling a lot of those types of issues, because, and really we've only seen that in the last several years. And not to take anything away from broadcasters, but they're busy broadcasting the game. They don't read the rule books.
It's true. It's very true.
You see it in NFL games, and I'm sure you guys come across that on a Friday night when you're doing your games. Like, I wonder what's going on down there, and why are they doing that? Right?
Yeah. Well, now we're going to have to add you to the broadcast, Scott. You're going to have to we'll have you on a Zoom call waiting for the entire football game. We're going to go to Scott Hanson, our AIA official. Scott, what's going on with this call? We'll have to add you to the broadcast.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll take an official's timeout. I got to deal with these guys up here in Cottonwood.
Yeah, while you're on Friday night, you just keep your phone with you. Right. I do, Scott, I got one last one question for you, and it's about your book. Actually, make it 2 questions. Before we let you go here, again, AIA referee Scott Hanson, I'd wish we could talk all day about this because it's fascinating. I actually have more questions, so I guess we'll have to bring you on again.
Well, but I'm pretty easy and I love talking about it.
I know. But Scott, first and foremost, where can people go to find your book? And secondly, have you considered the possibility of the third book idea that I gave you the last time you were here regarding mascots?
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. Well, first of all, let me answer the first question. Who is Jim and what's your number? If people email me at shanson@hmapr.com, I can get books sent to them.
Okay.
And, it takes a lot of energy to write books. And your idea is a wonderful idea. And I think I took it maybe a little step further, and I was kind of contemplating it. And I'll use the high school that I went to as an example. I went to Washington High School in Phoenix, the Washington Rams. And my idea was, and your idea was that, well, how did they come up with that nickname of Rams? Was it, the student body, first student council? Was it some administrator when the school opened? How did they do that? And I thought about it, but I haven't committed to do it. And I don't know if I will, but it's a great idea.
I will take it. I'll take consideration, and hopefully eventually it'll lead to a third book. But Scott, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show to talk about your expertise as an AIA referee. If you are interested in becoming an AIA referee, go and visit AIAonline.com. That's the best place.
.org.
Excuse me. Right. It is .org. Yes, it is AIAonline.org. Go check that out. You can find all the information you need about becoming an AIA referee like Scott Hanson. And who knows, maybe down the line, you'll get an opportunity to come on the show and talk about you being a referee. No promises, though. But Scott, thank you very much for coming on the show. It is always great to speak with you, and I look forward to doing so again in the future.
Okay, Phil, thanks so much. You guys have a great day.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Bradshaw Mountain golf coach David Kafka. Stay with us here on Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I am joined now by a former Mingus Union swimmer and current collegiate swimmer at Northern Arizona University, Emma Warner. Emma, welcome onto the show.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. You've been competitively swimming for years at the club level, at the college level, now at the collegiate level. What got you started in the sport of swimming?
I started when I was about 5 years old. My sister was on the Cottonwood Clippers, and so my parents just introduced me to it, thinking that it would just be a summer sport that I'd enjoy, but I ended up falling in love with it and continuing my career. I ended up dropping all the other sports that I was doing just so I could keep swimming, and I'm here where I am now.
Very much so. A very successful Mingus Marauder swimming. You accomplished a lot during your time over at Mingus Union High School. You carried a 4.0 GPA. You were the president of the National Honor Society. You were a school spirit leader, which I don't know what that means. A link crew leader, which also you might have to clarify for me as well. Member of the Mingus Captains Club. You currently hold the record for the 100 breaststroke at Mingus, and also, on top of a bunch of other stuff I didn't even list, you won Homecoming Queen in your senior year over at Mingus Union High School. Do you have a specific memory at Mingus that kind of stands out for you?
I think my favorite was being the state champion at the state championships this last year as a senior. That will always hold the highest pedestal for me. That is something that I think is my highest accomplishment, and I am very proud of that.
Well, let me ask you this: is it more fun to win a state title or win Homecoming Queen?
Definitely a state title.
Okay. I would assume so. I have done neither. So I kind of assume that the state title would be a little bit more fun. We mentioned your time over at Mingus Union High School. You got to play under Coach Gretchen Westbrook, who has been a guest on the show once, and she's been on our Mingus broadcast several times. Gretchen is great to speak with. How did she help in your development as a swimmer?
She always pushed me to work my hardest and to always put myself out there no matter what was going on, to get really involved. And I feel like that's what made my high school experience so good, is being able to be so involved in the school, but also being a captain for the swim team and being a member of the swim team really, really solidified my time at Mingus. And I'm really glad that I did that. I'm glad I did everything. And she pushed me to be involved in as many things as I possibly could.
During that, again, we were speaking with former Mingus Union High School swimmer Emma Warner. She is currently a collegiate swimmer over at Northern Arizona University in her first year with the Lumberjacks. When you were 12 years old, Emma, you got news that no parent wants to hear, no person wants to hear, and that you were diagnosed with thyroid cancer. But instead of taking time off or taking years off to go through treatment and step away from sports, you really, really wanted to keep swimming. You almost begged your parents to let you swim. And shortly after that news, you were back swimming with, I believe, it would have been the club team at that time, getting ready to go into your freshman year at Mingus Union. What went into that decision to want to keep swimming? It would have been so easy for you to not do so.
So when people are diagnosed with cancer, I feel like sometimes they do take a little back burner, and that's good for your health. Like, it's really good to take a mental awareness check and really take care of yourself. But for me, being in the pool is what made my health better. That's where all my emotions are able to get out. I can cry in the pool and nobody would know because I got my goggles on. It's my one happy place that I really don't have to talk to anyone because you can't talk underwater. And so I just wanted to get back in and prove that just because you have a disease does not mean that it's the end of the world. And despite the 3 surgeries that I've had, the 3 treatments that I've had, I've always just wanted to get back in the water and keep going, because I know that that's not just the breaking point. Like, there's always more to reach for. And that's what keeps my drive going. I always want to reach for the next biggest thing. So for me, it was breaking the record. Okay, I broke the record. Okay, now I want to win state championship. Okay, now I want to swim in college. I don't care if it's D3, D2, D1. I just want to swim in college. I got that. Now I just want to make the conference team here. I just want to be able to represent the Jacks at WAC and hopefully win our 8th title as WAC champions. And then from there, we'll create new goals. The goals just keep going.
Yeah, very much so. And I know you are still continuing your treatment with the battle against thyroid cancer, but I think it is incredibly inspirational that you didn't want to stop your life. As you mentioned, swimming is something that you utilize as a stress reliever. It gets out that competitive edge. It gives you an opportunity to sort of step away from that, because in the pool, I would assume you feel pretty invincible, especially considering all the things that you accomplished at Mingus and the things that you are currently, with COVID currently being a nightmare, but the things that you plan on continuing at Northern Arizona University. You signed an honorary letter of commitment to go to NAU when you were 12 years old. But you followed through with that commitment. It was an honorary commitment. You could have said, no, I want to go swim somewhere else, but you decided to stick with the Northern Arizona University Lumberjacks. Why stay in the northern part of the state, and why go swim at NAU?
So I thought about swimming in other places, but with my medical bills, it just made more sense to stay in state. And swimming or doing any sport is very hard to get into in Arizona because every school here is D1. And so I have a connection with the head coach here. Obviously, I've had since I was 12, but I've also known him because our club teams swim together sometimes. And so I just got to talking with him, and he has always had a spot for me. He always knew that he wanted me to be a member of the swim team. because we just have that connection together. And so I think that's what made it so easy, is I felt so at home coming here. I also love Flagstaff. It makes me feel like I'm not in Arizona. It makes me feel like I'm in Colorado, not the desert. I don't like heat. I like snow. I like the cold. So Flagstaff made it easy to adapt, and I'm so happy to be a Lumberjack. I wouldn't have chose any other team.
Now, as you mentioned, the Lumberjacks do compete in the Western Athletic Conference, which is where my alma mater, Grand Canyon University, competes. Is it too late to recruit you to the Lopes, or are you pretty stuck with the Lumberjacks?
I'm pretty stuck with the Lumberjacks.
You talk about building that relationship with Coach Andy Johns over at Northern Arizona University. Obviously, for the longest time, Coach Gretchen Westbrook was your coach. Is there any kind of difference between the two coaches that you've noticed?
Definitely. One, obviously, he's a guy coach, so he's more like a dad to me than Gretchen. She's like a mom. He handles things differently, just like a mom and a dad would. But Andy, he's a lot stricter. He's a lot more serious. He's very sarcastic in his comments, where Gretchen's very bubbly personality. But they're two completely different people, and I'm happy with both of them.
I bet so. As you've gone through, Coach Westbrook has been actually really both coaches have been very prominent in your swimming career. Coach Westbrook maybe a little bit more directly than Coach Johns, but as you mentioned earlier, your relationship with Coach Johns has been building since you signed that honorary letter of commitment, and you knew that you wanted to swim for Coach Johns and the Lumberjacks, and now you're doing so. You're a part of the Western Athletic Conference. You're a part of the Northern Arizona University Lumberjacks, getting ready to finally get into the pool and get a chance to swim for the Lumberjacks. I know COVID-19 has been an absolute nightmare, but you, like a lot of people, had to adapt, and you were able to adapt, not being able to get into the pool in the beginning of the pandemic. There's a video that circulated, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Your training method. I want to break it down a little bit, but you can get a little more specific, obviously. What I saw was you laying, it looked like a stool, like a bar stool, right on your stomach. You were going through the motions while somebody was throwing water at you to sort of simulate the conditions in the pool. First off, whose idea was that? And secondly, are there any other ways that you've been able to stay sharp, not being able to directly, swim in a pool or practice with your team?
Yeah, definitely. So that was just like a funny video that I saw. Someone else did it, and I just wanted to do it because obviously I'm a swimmer, so I wanted to try it. My sister threw the bucket of water on me. I thought it'd be funny, and I thought other people needed a little sense of humor, as I'm a pretty funny person sometimes. And so I just wanted to bring some joy to the internet and let other people laugh like I had a fun time doing it. But during COVID and everything was shut down, all the pools were closed. So I just picked up some running. I ran 3 miles a day. I was boxing. I just jump roped. I just did everything I could that would keep me physically in shape so that when I got in the pool, I'd be not dying. But yeah, that's all I possibly could do until the pools opened. A lot of other people have their own pools, so they found ways to just swim stationary. Well, I needed to find other ways to do that. So yeah,
and you broke out found my
own ways.
Yeah, you
broke out the bar stool.
Right. Any other sort of, you mentioned boxing, a lot of cardio. So I would assume as a swimmer, cardio is probably one of the more prominent things to focus on. Boxing, a lot of hand movements in boxing, a lot of upper respiratory usage. You mentioned running, of course. Is there any kind of weirder ones that you do to sort of stay sharp outside of, having buckets of water thrown on you?
No, just like the typical, just like push-ups and plyometric stuff that can help me with still being able to push off the wall hard or keeping my pull strong. So I used a lot of bands like I used on the bar stool to keep my pull strong so that I could get back in and be as close to a shape as I could be.
And again, we are speaking with former Mingus Union High School swimmer and current swimmer for Northern Arizona University, Emma Warner. At NAU, Emma, not only are you going to be swimming, but you're going to be majoring in public health with a minor in psychology and possibly moving into the accelerated nursing program. Can we talk a little bit about your decision for your major to go into public health as opposed to literally anything else?
So I've since I've been diagnosed, I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to give back to the healthcare community. And with COVID going on, I thought public health is the perfect career to go into. You can help in so many different ways. Public health has so many different opportunities. And it's also a really good career to have on the back burner if I didn't want to do nursing anymore, or when I'm retired, if I wanted to own a hospital or something. It just gives me a good backbone to have. And it's also really good for what's going on right now. It's really helping me have a bigger picture of what I want to do with my life.
As we all know, we've mentioned it a few times. I feel like I've been mentioning it forever is, COVID-19 going on. And obviously there are nurses that are needed here, not only in Arizona, but throughout the entire world. Very admirable of you to go into the public health field and to want to help people who are in a similar situation like yourself, who are going through a tough time with cancer or going through a tough time with this virus. And it's quite incredible to be selfless like that and go into a career field that really does benefit a lot of people. Where does the minor in psychology come from? Are you just interested in psychology or just trying to get into the heads of people?
I definitely love psychology so much. I love how the brain functions. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. I would never major in it though, because that would require me to take more math, and I don't want to take any more math. Calculus is not something I would like to
teach Joe because I'm good at math.
Yeah. So I would definitely do psychology, but I thought I could be used elsewhere, and having the backbone in psychology can just give me a bigger picture on how people's brains work in other fields, in other ways that people don't know.
Well, Emma, as we mentioned earlier, you're still going through the treatments with thyroid cancer, and something that's been affecting you since you were 12 years old. Before we let you go, do you have any kind of words of encouragement to anybody who might be going through the same thing, or any swimmers who are out of the water right now, who can't keep training? Any words of encouragement to them?
Just stay strong. I know it's really hard. Stay positive also. It's really hard during these times to think outside the box and be positive, but there's other ways to stay fit. This is only a temporary thing. This is just a setback that needed to happen, and definitely keep washing your hands, mask up, because where the pools are going to open again and everyone's going to get to swim again. There's so many different opportunities that you can find during this time. You can find yourself again. You can maybe find another hobby that you like just as much. I definitely found many different things that I enjoyed during this time. But just stay positive and everything will be okay, and we're going to get through this.
Very good words of encouragement from Emma Warner, current Northern Arizona University swimmer. Emma, we can't wait to find out what you do in the water. We're getting really close. Well, I know that maybe you can fill in for me. NAU is currently on a pause with their swim season right now. And I know that you're kind of itching and scratching to get back in the pool, but hopefully by the summertime, you'll be able to do so. But I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. It is incredibly inspiring, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future, and best of luck. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. We also have our first meet against the GCU. We have a meet against GCU this Saturday, and California Baptist. It's our first meet of the season besides doing inter-squad meets. So stay tuned for results on that. And yeah.
Well, best of luck, Emma. And I hate to say it, go Lopes, but also go Emma Warner and the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. Now I'm crossed between two schools because I've spoken to you, but I went to GCU. So I got to figure out where my allegiance lies. But anyway, Emma, thank you very much for coming on the show, and best of luck going forward with the Lumberjacks.
Thank you so much.
Want to welcome you back here to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to thank you for watching and listening along. If you are interested in the upcoming Wranglers football game this weekend, which would be June 12th, go and visit the Wranglers website for more information about that. We have got a great slate of guests coming up for you next week that you are definitely not going to want to miss. For all my guests, I'm Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.